So our question of the day was very serendipitous because I actually wrote a blog post for NSITSP about this topic.
Hmm.
And the topic is about non-compete agreements. And the reason I wrote a blog post on it is because the law just changed. And maybe this is actually what
Right.
prompted the question. I'm not sure. So let me tell you a little bit about the labor law that changed. There was two labor law changes that are important for business. One is the non-compete. Um, and what they did on the non-compete was um, narrow the definition of senior staff. Right? Before you could sort of, if a person was a senior staff member, they would be eligible to be under a non-compete, right?
Right.
They'd risen to some level. And so that was in their job title, and that was what that meant. Well, the new rules say no, that's not actually the case. What they need to be is in a senior employee that is in a policy decision-making role. So if they're not in a policy make decision-making role in your business, then they can't be held to a non-compete. If you go over to the NSITSP blog and you'll see that link there at the top of the page, I've got the whole text of the rule in a PDF that you can download that tells you exactly who and who cannot be under non-competes these days.
Now that was a federal law, right? That was passed.
Yeah, that's a federal law, and states have been moving in the direction of allowing fewer and fewer non-competes.
Right.
It's kind of, sort of generally seen to be unfair to workers and to um, prevent them from taking, the next job or prevent them from advancing in their career potentially.
Right.
Because a lot of these non-competes say, well, you can't work for anybody in the same industry, you can't work for anybody in a certain radius. So it's limiting their opportunities for work. And that's been the thing that they're trying to defend while balancing the need for, businesses to protect their information at the same time. It's
Right.
complicated balancing
Uh,
point.
It's
I think,
very
it,
complicated. Yeah.
yeah, both states and federal are sort of adjusting and kind of jockeying around and trying to find out where that balancing point is. And so if you haven't looked at those rules in your state recently, you'll probably want to do that. And then you'll want to look at these new federal rules as well.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I've been in several states where it was already outlawed and it's not enforceable. Like the state of California, it's been like that forever. So as business owners, what people would do, oh, non-compete, you can't put that language in there. But what you can put in your agreements as a business owner to an employee is the misuse of confidential and trade secret information for personal gain. So essentially, that's the same type of thing, non-solicitation of employees, non-solicitation of customers, and then misuse of confidential information. And that's always such a, well, how do you prove if it's confidential or not? Pricing formulas, in terms on contracts, things
Right.
like that. So a
Yeah.
lot of people have that in their agreements, but I'm surprised at what a hoopla it made. I mean, I saw a lot of this in the media, a lot of people talking about this, but for me, non-competes have been, for the most part, unenforceable in many states for a long time.
Yeah. I thought so too, but apparently there are still 30 million workers subject to non-competes. And I think the method that you just described makes more sense to me because
Yeah.
we don't want to prevent people from working or advancing in their career. What you're really after with that is what you just described, right? Protecting the
Now,
information from their previous employer.
what are your thoughts on this, Amy? Because there's two sides of this. One, there's the employee, right? I
Mhm.
should be able to go work for whoever I want and earn a living for my family. Boy, I get that. But on the
Mhm.
flip side, as a business owner, you've got to protect yourself to allow your employees to go take your customer list and then plug it into a new CRM company at your competitor down the street and start poaching all your clients.
I think it's a concern for businesses, and so I've always approached that from a data security point. Not allowing those contact lists to be downloaded,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Setting alerts on if that attempts to be done, it blocks the account. We do things like that as part of our standard set of policies. We also have some policies set up that alert to unusual volume of downloads, which is something that can also happen if an employee is leaving, right? They might be like, oh, I want to make sure I have this information with me when I go. So we'll alert on that and then block the account until we see what's happening, right? So I think there's some things that IT can do to help that. On the other side, though, there's a lot of this that's just an HR issue, right?
Mhm.
Not all problems are IT problems. Sometimes we have to push back and say, no, I think that's an HR issue,
Yeah.
and it's okay to do that. Now, from a personal standpoint, in my MSP, there was kind of two schools of thought that you could go with. One was um, I'm not going to let my clients have a direct relationship with my techs because I don't want the techs to take the clients. And so they rotate them and make sure that the techs are never, never seen as the guy, right? Um, and obfuscate them through generic email addresses, don't give out cell phone numbers, all these kinds of things. And to me, I was looking at that and I thought that sounds like a whole lot of additional work. And so I decided not to worry about it.
Mm.
And I just thought that having those kinds of personal relationships was important to my business, right?
Yeah.
The culture that we wanted to build was that personal relationship. I just needed to make sure that I had a very strong brand presence
Yep.
so that when when a staff member left, the clients were not, you know, weren't thinking like, oh, I'm going to follow that person. They were thinking, oh, I know Harbor's got lots of great people, and the next person's going to be as good as the previous one.
Right.
I actually did have a tech one time. Um, he wasn't with us very long, and I ended up letting him go. And I had two clients contact me and say, hey, this guy's reached out and he hasn't said I'm starting a new MSP. What he said was, "Oh, if you ever just find yourself needing some extra help, Harbor's not available. You could still just call me."
No.
And they let me know that was going on, and I sent him a harshly worded letter.
Right. Well, and it's the unfortunate reality